Tourney season is about to start. We have 4 weeks of Divisional Cups leading up to FNCS. That means if, like me, you're not already in Elite, we're going to have 8 tries to try to get there. Today I'm going to give you advice that I wish I knew last season during the Divisional Cups. And then I'll be breaking down one of our best games from the Placement Cup so that you guys can understand everything I'm about to say a little bit better. Let's hop into it. First off, should you W key or should you play for endgame? In Contender Cups, it is only 1 point per kill, but 65 for the win. So getting that placement is literally everything that you need to be doing. In Challengers, it's 2 points per kill, but 65 for the win. Still very placement heavy. Whether you're in Contenders or Challengers, I low-key recommend that you try to at least get 1 hammer before you set yourself up for endgame. So if you don't get a hammer off spawn, maybe it's worth W keying somebody that you know has hammers. I wouldn't recommend just blindly running up to somebody and fighting them, but if you hear hammers nearby, get your crouch walk going, try to sneak up on them, and see if you can get a quick knock. Going into endgame with a hammer is usually going to be the best bet, but if you're low on games, it might not be worth for you to take that risk. But specifically in the Challenger Cups, it is really important that you make every single game count because such few people qual that you need to play with insane consistency, getting top 5s almost every single game. So if you need hammers to get top 5s, then maybe you want to take that risk. Let me just quickly say though, me and Kenbeans, our 2 best games from the Placement Cup were without hammers. So it's not like you 100% need them, but they are pretty overpowered. The game we're breaking down at the end is actually us without hammers. So next up, make sure you have your drop spot figured out before the tourney. If off spawn is your biggest struggle, maybe use this first Divisional Cup to test out spots. For the first couple games, go to the spot that you're most confident with. And if it's just not working out, maybe use the rest of your games to test out other drop spots. That way you're more set up and have a clear vision of what you're going to do in your next Divisional Cups. Don't do that every single week though. If you have your spot figured out, stick with it, obviously. When it comes to Storm Surge, it is likely going to be active in every single Divisional Cup. Contenders especially, people play very safe. But from personal experience, those contender lobbies, while Surge is probably going to be active, it's not going to be so bad. In an Elite Cup for Surge, you may need like 1,000 damage dealt by the end of the game to not get hit by Surge. But in Contenders, you're probably going to be chilling if you just get like 500 damage dealt before first moving. My biggest advice with Storm Surge is if you're uncontested off spawn, try to get Surge early on other locations around you. For example, me and Kenbeans, we usually go up on this big old mountain and scout all around us early in the game to see what we can find for Surge. This usually puts us ahead. It's risky splitting like that, but you can get ahead on Surge and then you're not throwing away games to Storm Surge. So think about your drop. Maybe there's nowhere that you can actually look for Surge. If there's nowhere to look for Surge early on, then you just have to rotate earlier and get to a Surge spot where you have good visuals. Now, when it comes to loadouts, this is obviously personal preference, but I heavy vouch for Thunder Shotgun, Scoped AR if you're in a Surge lobby. But if Surge doesn't seem to be much of a problem or you got a lot off spawn, then maybe you can carry an SMG or a pistol. But if Surge seems like it's going to go off at some point in the game, I usually recommend one person at least have the Scoped AR. At least. Usually me and Ken are both carrying it. The other player could be carrying an SMG or a pistol. And then for your other 3 slots, carry either hammer or impulses, or just 3 sets of heals. Obviously, the best heals are chug splashes, but if you have the opportunity to get shieldfish from like a key, I definitely recommend dropping your minis for those because shieldfish are so crazy. But yeah, worst case scenario for movement, maybe you carry impulses and you both get glider redeploy. You both get aerialist. That's not a bad strat to go with. Now, with all that being said, let's hop into this game breakdown. So we're just going to start with this rotate right here. Our goal in the 3rd zone is usually to try to get to the absolute center, unless we have forecast and can see where the next zone pulls. But if you're in the center of the 3rd zone, you will always pull the 4th zone. Obviously, don't force your way to the center, but in our situation, as you can see, it was pretty free. So as you can see, because we're a center 3rd zone, we pull the 4th, and now we're just waiting to see where the next goes. Now this next zone pulls far, and our only mission, both of us as a duo, is to try to figure out the best way to get in. So we're both just scouting and trying to look for an opportunity, and Ken sees one here. He sees that we can use these old builds to break line of sight. We just have to block our top and maybe our right. As we're rotating through here, like we're just blocking our angles and it's so free. We get all the way through, no problem. And now we're set up super nice for endgame. We start out this first moving with an impulse play here. Immediately as I get hit by it, I try to turn and see exactly where Ken's going. My goal is just get through this zone, stick with Ken, trust him that he's going to get me to a good spot, but I'm also looking to calm out good places that we could rotate to. If I ever see a free lair, I'm just going to calm go up and right, stuff like that, just to help him IGL a little bit. Once we get to the front side here and we have space, I immediately start looking for where we could get a play. My first instinct is to look back, but there really wasn't anybody to look at behind us. So then Ken starts looking forward, we double spray this guy, just to see if we could get a crack. When we don't get a crack, we just rotate by. But if we were to crack him, we would push him and get a refresh. Now you may be thinking, oh, you guys are below Surge. This game we weren't really looking for Surge that much because it was very dead. And even at this point in the game, we're not panicking because we know if it pops, it's only going to pop for like half a second. At this point, when we aerialist to the front edge, I immediately tell Ken we need to get up layers, especially since we're playing aerialist. If it pulled max and we were on low ground, it would be tough to make it. But if we're just elevated, we can aerialist front really easily. Sure enough, it does pull max, and at this point, I'm looking for a quick refresh while Ken's looking for the rotate. Ken calmed that he had an aerialist play, so even though I got this guy weak, we were on back edge, so I just follow Ken to front side. I never want to get caught on back edge zone unless we absolutely are shambles. So I catch up with Ken, aerialist front. At this point, I told Ken to get up one layer, and I wasn't going to wait for him to get up. I just immediately started leading on that layer because this was congested. So I just told him to get up, follow me, and we got through this awkward part of the rotate. If we sat there for more than 2 seconds, it probably would have led to us getting pushed and dying. This next rotate got a little bit awkward. It definitely wasn't a bad rotate. We build up to start it, which isn't a bad thing. But we probably could have just aerialist the left side of zone and got frontside low ground. Instead, we're getting sprayed at by height here, and it got a little bit awkward, but we made it through. I noticed us staggering here and nobody was building forward, so I just branched us forward the rest of the way into the zone. And then we get healed up and ready to go. Like I said earlier in the video, shieldfish are crazy. Look at how fast we got to max HP. It's nuts. At this point, Ken's really low on mats. I have more mats than him, so I told him I'll lead if it pulls. The reason I said that is because I kind of had a better idea of what was ahead of us because I was the one that was leading at the very end of the tarp. But zone pulls back. So as soon as zone pulls back here, I make us some boxes, and then we start looking together in all different ways to try to find a refresh as soon as possible. We don't look one direction for too long. If it doesn't seem like there's a play there, we look somewhere else. After looking in enough different places, we eventually found a refresh. We look there together and literally get the fastest kills. And that guy had so many mats, so we were blessed. Immediately, Ken starts tarping forward. He told me he's good on mats, so I wasn't splitting. We just got to a safe place, and now we're looking to frag. I see that there's a solo based up underneath us, so I tell him to trust me and just drop on him. We get in his box so quickly. He hammered out, so we just immediately made space and I start looking again. We're basically in the zone at this point, so we're just taking advantage of having this time to look around. We get another refresh drop down right here, and there was extra mats in the box. We are kidded. And we got double hammer. So now we just keep branching out on this low ground layer. We try to get off to a side though, so we're not caught in the middle. When you're on low ground in a place like this, you gotta get ready to go up layers because it can get really awkward really fast. You might get full collapse down here. So we get off to the side, use our hard mats to get up a layer, make sure we're safe before we go up that layer, and then we start tarping there. I knew there would be other players on our layer, so I'm not going to be a chicken. I'm not going to be like, okay, let's try to just like tarp our layer for a while, see who pushes first. I immediately get on that wall. I know Ken's with me, so it's not a problem, and I scared him off that layer so fast. As soon as we have this layer cleared, I immediately get us all the way to the front edge. That way nobody can cut us off on low ground. I even tank a little bit of storm to get a bit ahead. So Ken and I kind of alternate like who leads the tarps. It really doesn't matter. As long as if we don't get cut off on low ground, that's literally it. We both just slowly build ahead and look around us for people that drop to low ground shambles and just full play our lair here. Ken eventually sees a refresh on low ground, so I just go with him. I'm like, screw it, let's go get that. Let's tarp from there. But we have the idea, it's the final seconds of the game. There's only 3 players. We say, let's go for high ground at the same exact time. It's a power play for height, us against Bucky. And sure enough, height was really shambles. They didn't have mats, so us going for that play worked out perfectly. Anyways, I hope this video helped you guys out in some way to prepare for the Divisional Cups. Go Qual. Remember, we have 8 tries, so if you don't get it this time, keep your head up. More videos coming soon, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.